Operation Goodwood, the British attack across open country to the east of Caen in Normandy, was one of the more controversial battles of the Overlord campaign, and is often portrayed as one of the biggest British disasters of the Second World War. The operation involved a massive British armoured attack to the east of Caen, which prompted the Germans to move reinforcements to the area, and eventually completed the liberation of Caen, although it fell short of the dramatic breakthrough that some had hoped for. The city of Caen, which was supposed to be released on the evening of D-Day, was still not in the Allied hands as of mid-July 1944. The Germans have sent enormous reinforcements to this region, including heavy armored units. Since June 6, 1944, the British have been planning an operation to break through German lines and clear their blocked bridgeheads. At the same time, the Americans were preparing the Cobra operation south of the Cotentin Peninsula, scheduled for July 20, 1944. The Goodwood offensive would draw German troops to the region of Caen, leaving the field comparatively open for American forces. General Miles Dempsey presented the British Commander-in-Chief General Bernard Montgomery with a plan on July 10, 1944. It entailed breaking out around Caen with mass armor. They refined the plan and prepped it for launch over the next few days. The main thrusts of Operation Goodwood would be twofold. Outside of Caen, bombers would punch a hole in the German defenses, allowing 3 British armored divisions to push south onto the plain to the southeast of Caen, then capture the Bourguebus Ridge. This would allow them to break out into the Falaise plain, which the RAF desperately wanted for its airfields. Meanwhile, Canadian forces would press their way out of the areas of Caen that they controlled and take control of the rest of the city. The British and Canadians could take advantage of their numerical advantage once they burst through, outnumbering the Germans 2-to-1 in infantry and 4-to-1 in tanks. Goodwood would pave the way for more widespread success. The Goodwood attack was planned to be a surprise to the Germans, but it was difficult to conceal such a large movement of armor, and the Germans were aware that something was up a few days before the attack. Montgomery's confidence waned, and the objectives were narrowed, with references to Falaise eliminated. The bombing began around 5:30 a.m. on July 18. Panzer Group West was subjected to one of the largest air-to-ground strikes in history for 3 hours. Men, tanks, and artillery were strewn across the countryside in a chaotic mess. Montgomery's 3 armored divisions, 11th Armored, Guards Armored and 7th Armored, surged forward in the aftermath of the bombing. While the bombardment disabled a few Tiger tanks and shook up the Luftwaffe personnel pressed into the first line of defense, leading to hundreds of surrenders, it only caused little damage to German defenses. This became clear as the 11th Armored Division advanced forward, led by a few tanks. As the vehicles advanced over the open country fields, German anti-tank guns concealed in woods and fortified farms, the majority of which had survived the bombing, started fire. Entire squadrons were wiped out in a matter of minutes in certain places. The plain below Bourguebus was soon littered with dozens of burning tanks. The 7th and Guards Armored Divisions were stuck in a massive traffic jam during the afternoon of July 18, and once out into the fields, they presented the German 88mm flak gunners with a perfect shooting gallery. The quick, decisive attack Montgomery had envisioned became delayed, as losses mounted. The Canadians had secured the majority of Caen by the end of the first day, while the British had fallen short of their goals. The Germans still controlled the Burgbus Ridge, the high point that obstructed the Allied approach. The Germans poured in reinforcements as the battle progressed, mounting local counterattacks with Panthers, Tigers, and the much more terrifying 68-ton King Tiger. As a result, the British troops that followed had a real fight on their hands. The terrain only made things worse. Around Caen, the Normandy countryside, which had previously been densely packed, became more open. This provided the Germans with a better field of fire to shoot down the approaching British. The British tanks were not as tough as their German counterparts, and they suffered as a result of combat in the open. They began to miss the cover that had aided their opponents previously. For the first time, the Germans had the intelligence advantage. They'd done a thorough study of the British and Canadian forces and knew exactly what to expect. Montgomery was either unaware of or in denial about these difficulties. He gave reporters a briefing about a major breakthrough, which led to outrageously optimistic reports in the newspapers the next day. Montgomery, in an attempt to strengthen his political position, instead weakened it by making promises he couldn't keep. Meanwhile, the troops on the front lines grew tired and enraged. Montgomery persevered despite the fact that the breakthrough did not occur on the first day. For him and the Allied armies, this was a crucial operation. The British and Canadians fought for 3 more days around Caen, hoping to achieve a major breakthrough. The Germans dug in, reinforcing their Burgbus Ridge positions, and battled back fiercely. The British had only advanced 6 kilometers by the time the operation ran out of steam on July 21st. By the end of the battle, the Allies had lost 5,537 men, as well as 400 tanks, accounting for a third of the British armor in France. Over 2,000 German prisoners were taken and 100 tanks were destroyed. General Bernard Montgomery's many adversaries, mainly top RAF officers, used the limited advance and tank losses to try to get him sacked. Goodwood is widely credited with diverting German forces away from American positions further west. There, Bradley was launching Operation Cobra, the onslaught that broke through German lines and brought the confinement of the Norman coast to an end. Cobra resulted in the capitulation of German forces around Falaise and the Axis retreat east and out of France. In the planning of Goodwood, Montgomery appeared to suggest that the offensive would be a breakthrough, and when the VIII Corps failed to break out, according to some reports, the Supreme Commander, U.S. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, felt he had been misled. Montgomery attempted to redefine Goodwood's goals in the aftermath. He claimed that it had always been about diverting German attention away from Cobra, and that it had been a success. The severe casualties and missed objectives, on the other hand, told a different story. For years to come, Goodwood would remain a subject of controversy. If you have enjoyed the story of this battle, please subscribe and support the channel for more. Many thanks for watching.